Welcome back to Robert's Reviews. I'm tired. I am tired. Particularly after thinking about this movie. Evan Almighty was a movie made in 2007. This movie is the second movie in the Almighty duo. This came after Bruce Almighty, which I have a review for that on this channel as well. So if you want to go drop down and watch that after you watch this one. And, it's not great. Sorry, I'm making tea. I want to make sure I'm not burning the place down. This movie was directed by Tom Shadyac and written by Steve Odenkirk, who I wonder is related to Bob Odenkirk. Maybe they're brothers. I'm not sure. Look up yourself, because I am filming a video right now, so I don't have time. Okay, I don't have time. I don't. But if you have time, maybe you could do that and drop it in the comments below. If Steve Odenkirk was related to Bob Odenkirk. Anyway, this film was a bad idea. Forged in the love of Steve Carell. So basically, what I believe happened was after making Bruce Almighty, and Bruce Almighty was really good and really funny and really relevant, they saw Steve Carell make 40-Year-Old Virgin and was like, hey, we could use him. So I believe they contacted him and was like, hey, want to be in a movie? And he was like, yeah, sure. And then this happened, which is a bad idea. The idea of this movie is that Steve Carell's character, Evan Baxter, basically wakes up one morning. He is a congressman now. He was a news reporter in Bruce Almighty, but he got bumped up to congressman, which is fine, whatever. And then what happened was God shows up and is like, if you're looking to help people, you could build me an ark because there's a flood coming. And then eventually, after like half an hour of Evan being like, no, I'm not doing that, blah, 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 blah. He eventually does build the ark, and everyone thinks he's crazy. I also think he's kind of crazy. And then a flood happens where this dam breaks. It does not look good. Doesn't look good, doesn't make any sense at all. Water doesn't move that way. We'll get there in a second. We'll discuss that. Flood happens, and then the flood stops happening, and then everyone's like, wow, you weren't crazy. That's the whole movie. I didn't miss any small details of it. That was the whole... That wasn't the gist. That was the entire movie. Now, let's discuss the acting first, and then I'll discuss why I hated the movie. And so first, because the acting was good, Steve Carell. I mean, Steve Carell's great in everything he does, in my opinion. And this was no different. He was great in this film. He was funny. He was relevant. I think a lot of his lines might have been ad-libbed because they were all really funny. And I think that the farther we move on, the worse he looks. I mean, he gets a beard, and then he turns white beard, and then he looks old. It's just not a good look for Steve Carell. And I understand that he has to look old because he has to look like he's, Noah from Noah's Ark story, but I mean, come on. It just doesn't look good. It was boring to watch. Didn't enjoy it. I mean, it's not his worst performance at all, by any stretch of the imagination. There's a movie coming out in a couple of weeks, a movie review coming out in a couple of weeks, that I do believe was his worst performance. But we'll get there when we get there. Right now, we're talking about Evan Almighty, and I think his performance is okay. If I was judging just purely on performance, this would be okay. It wouldn't be an A, still. My tea smells good. Oh... but it's not the worst either. Morgan Freeman, leader of everything. He is God in everything he does, and in this movie. And I think even he was better in Bruce Almighty, because in Bruce Almighty he was funny because he would come up in these different characters, and eventually Jim Carrey's character found out that he was God. But in this one he's like, I'm God, and I'm like, oh, that was fast. Way to ruin the surprise. But doesn't sound good. But whatever. I'm not going to complain about it too much. That's not Morgan Freeman's fault. That's whoever wrote the movie's fault. That's Steve Odenkirk's fault. But I just think that it was really fast and really kind of boring when it came to his character this time. Which it is God, so it shouldn't be boring. But this time it just felt like, why couldn't God just build a boat? I understand why they had Bruce Almighty become God for a week, because they wanted to, they wanted Bruce to learn a lesson. This wasn't about Evan, which was annoying. This was about God just not wanting to do some light work So he asked Evan to do it for some reason, and Evan learned nothing by the end of the film. He was a static character, learned nothing by the end of the film, and that was really annoying to me. Lauren Graham plays Evan's wife. And I mean, she was fine. She's barely in the movie. Her character first is like, no, you're not talking to God. And then by the end realizes, oh, he wasn't kidding. Whatever. I'm not plussed. It was okay. It wasn't bad. Didn't really care that much. John Goodman is also in the film. I figured I'd give him a quick shout out because I love John Goodman. I think he's really good in everything he does. And this was no different. I mean, his voice is so rich. But I didn't have a problem with his character. He was like the lead congressman guy. And I think he might have had the best performance in the film. Because he was just always this mean guy. He was like, and then Evan would do something and then he'd be surprised and whatever. I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. He was pretty good. Now, one quick honorable mention. Ed Helms had a cameo in this film as a camera operator, reporter guy. That surprised me. I was like, hey, Ed Helms, hey! It was always a warm welcome to see Ed Helms. There were other actors and actresses in this film that I could talk about, but they were all just okay, because I couldn't focus on the acting so much because the plot was just so bad. Oh my god! Oh god! It was bad. It was so boring. I couldn't help but fall asleep. Like, it was so hard to stay awake. And I just think that, why would they make this film? They ruined Bruce Almighty, and Bruce Almighty itself isn't like the greatest film of all time anyway, but it's not bad. This made me not want to watch Bruce Almighty anymore. Which is saying something. And I mean, like, it's a good, like, film for kids, I guess, but the kids aren't going to understand what the whole idea is between Noah's Ark and the story. I mean, maybe kids that go to church all the time would know. But, like, any regular, like kid that you just pick off the street would be like, if you were like, what's the story of Noah? They would have no idea. And this maybe helped bring that story to light, but they never really mentioned Noah. They mentioned, like, once. And then it's Evan. So I'm scared that the children of the world is going to be like, what's the story of Noah? And they'll be like, you mean Evan? No, we don't mean Evan. One big thing that I hated about the film was the water. The water. There was this big flood that happened, and the water physics were so bad. Oh my god, they were bad. I understand this was made in 2007, but they could have done better. Also, what a cop-out, because they didn't want to kill anybody, because it was a happy film. So they made everybody get on the boat, and the flood lasted like maybe 3 minutes of the film. And the water was just gone after that. And I'm like, that's not how floods work, for one. And for two, why was God so worried about this flood? It was going to last 2 seconds and probably wouldn't have killed anybody anyway. Also, there's not that much water that's held up behind the dam. Also, what? Huh? Oh, it was not pleasant to watch. And then the movie just ends. They're like, oh, and that's the movie. We're like, what? My tea's done. Nice. So, for all these reasons, I'm giving this a D-. It's not an F because I didn't hate it. Like, I'll probably never watch it again because I would watch Bruce Almighty first before watching Evan Almighty every time. But the acting in the film was okay, which is saved it from the F. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, which is saved it from an F. But just barely. Well, if you want more movie reviews, go check out my other videos. Make sure you comment and subscribe. Subscribe everywhere. Leave a like. Comment what you want me to review next. And if you want me to review anything that isn't a movie or TV show, drop it down below and I'll give it a look. And I will see you in the next video. And always remember to keep watching films.